Great, thank you.
of the project.
Good morning, as mentioned, my name is Charles Marnavale. I'm an attorney from Katona. I represent Vito and Bryam and Erico, who are the owners of this property, the proponents of the car club at Lakeview. With me today, in addition to Mr. Erico, are Barry Niederman, he's the project engineer, and Carol Kurth, and John Rapetti, Carol Kurth's office. I think the best way to start is to have us review with you a little bit about the property itself, and then we can talk about the specifics after that. So I'm going to let Barry take you through that.
Good morning, all. The property is about 60 acres. It's located on the west side of the intersection of Route 684 and Byram Lake Road. Most of you folks know the property as being this large clear water lake, and there's some nice slopes and rock outcrops that are along this portion of the property. This gives you a little aerial view of the property. The property extends all the way across up to the north, and again, it's bound on the east by 684 and Byram Lake Road. And some of the properties that are up on Byram Ridge Road that look down onto the site. What we'll be doing is a basic two-lot conventional subdivision, which will cut off a 3-acre parcel here for the car club, and the remainder of the property at 56 acres will just be a single-family residence. Just for purposes of the health department, we have to show the property being split and its ability to support a residence. The areas here are the wetlands. This portion are state DEC wetlands. These are locally regulated wetlands. The darker shaded areas are those areas which are regulated town of North Castle steep slopes, 25% are grading and having a certain minimum size. So we see that when we come in off of Byram Lake Road, the car club will be located right here, notched up into the hillside, and the residents will just go across an existing crossing here and up into the upland area. We're just representing a house site there.
Just before Barry goes on to the next map, just want to stress one thing. As he pointed out, for health department purposes, we have to illustrate a subdivision, meaning that you could put a single-family house in this particular area. We're doing that to effectuate the subdivision for this lot. We have no intentions at this time to build that or any other house on the rest of the property. We just sever this off. We have to show that. That's why it's shown for illustrative
So
purposes.
you're required to show a house.
Absolutely correct.
Even though you're not building it.
Exactly right. Right.
In order for the health department to allow and approve a subdivision in a residential zone, they have to see that the lots that are created can meet their current codes for a single-family residence. So zeroing in on the top club, again, the driveway will come off of Byram Lake Road, pretty much where the existing gates are. If anybody's familiar with the property, there's a little dirt road and gates that go down into the property. They're located right here. So basically, coming down here and swinging into the car club property, the building itself has a few different components. This leg and these legs are single-story garages, and I'll let John or Carol, whoever's going to do it, talk about the building itself. So these are one-story garages, and the club facility itself is this centerpiece right here, which will be 2 stories, and we'll come into a parking area. There's parking along the perimeter of the site here. There'll be a little gazebo, a little removable floating dock here that the club will be able to use. We're also proposing an easement all along this edge of the lake. We're proposing the property line to be 20 feet off of the lake so that there's just whoever ends up on this property, should there ever be a residence or something, that they will have the ability to go across and get fully around the lake, and as well as the club members to be able to get to the lake as well. So there's a little easement across there. Property is going to be served by individual septics and wells. Right now, the septic system is shown in this location underneath the parking area. There's really very limited septic use associated with this. These are all garages. We have a 2-bedroom caretaker's apartment
Yes.
upstairs, and then the club facility itself. There's no banquet facilities, there's no big usage at all, so we have a septic system designed here. Drainage is all going to be handled in accordance with the current state laws. Right now, we're showing an infiltration bed over here, which will overflow into the side wetlands next to 684. And with that, I think I'll let John talk about the specifics of the building, unless anybody has any questions so far. Great.
You can see some conceptual renderings of what we were intending to do with this building. Programmatically, we do have 27 bays for car storage, and that equates to about 46 parking spaces. And then we have a second-story component in this space where we said we have a 2-bedroom caretaker's apartment and then more of like a lounge club space on that second floor. We did try and break the building up so that it wasn't so massive and that it fit well with the site, with the topography, and we're going to keep the construction simple with a minimal impact to the environment, low roof line so that you don't see these massive buildings from the road. It is stepped down, so from the road with this tree line here, you really don't really obstruct many of the views from the scenery and the lake.
You want to go over, there's a cross-section there showing that, if you want to illustrate that for the board and the public.
Yes, this is the street level right here. You can see, so right now there's existing tree line. The grade slopes down, so we situated the building at the lowest point. This would be the corner unit is, and then the building, the garages extend from there. So you can see elevation-wise, the street is almost over the roof. We did choose to do some flat roofs on the main building so that it doesn't come up too high, and you're not staring at a large roof mass.
Can we take them through the interior of the facility too? As Sean was pointing out, a significant effort was made to allow this type of building to work with the contours of the land and to minimize its visibility.
So this is the floor plan here. Double bay garages on this wing, double bay here, and then single bay garages through here. And your driveway is going to come down, pull into the parking area right here. And this will be our corner unit. That's double story. And I'll show you this. So very simply, this is the only area that's going to be 2-story. This will be the club lounge space right here. And this is a 2-story caretaker's apartment.
And what I wanted to emphasize with that again is to show you the minimal nature of the club facilities. I want you to understand the impression, we want to correct any misimpressions about this type of use. We have very small club facilities. We have no banquet facilities because that's not the nature of this operation. Nor is it a commercial enterprise, I'll explain in just a second. I wanted you to have an idea that really half this is taken up by an office facility and the caretaker's apartment. You have very, very limited space for club members because it's going to be a very limited nature club.
What's the square footage of each floor?
That was yours.
I believe it's, say 2,000, a little over 2,000, 1,000 for the apartment, for the 2-bedroom apartment, and then a little over 1,000 for the rest.
It's totally 3,000. 2,000 is being attributed to the car club lounge, let's call it, and then 1,000, 1,200 is going to be for the caretaker's apartment.
So the total public, or I should say private club area is only about maximum of 1,500 to 2,000 feet.
Yeah, about
Exactly.
1,800 to 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
Circulation.
And if you were to do, have a little bit of a club, by the time you put in couches, by the time you put in, let's say, a pool table, I mean, how many people can you really fit in there? 10, 12? without feeling like you're on top of each other. And that's what you're really going to get. I mean, it's more of just a thing to have, you know, when it's a cold night and the kids want to watch some kind of show that doesn't really interest the guys, and they want to go over there and watch a football game or something like that. But that's where I see it. That's what the atmosphere wants to be.
Because it was never intended to be any sort of a large-scale operation. And that's why we're grateful for the opportunity to present this to you. This is as permitted by your ordinance, and we're before you for an application for a special permit. The actual application is for a private membership club. This is not a situation where someone, and I don't want to, the last thing what I want to do is sound discriminatory. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm saying is, it's not a commercial operation. Come down, pay your X number of dollars per month, and you can lease a garage space. It's actually going to be run very similar to a literary club, a social club, a hunting and fishing club, or a country club. And that is, the members have a voice in the operation of the facility and ownership interest in the facility, and you have to be a member. It's not like you can just come in and park your car there and say, I want to rent it for $100 a month. That's not what this is. And we wanted to make certain that you and the public had an understanding of what we really want to conduct on the site. It's going to be very, very limited in nature. People who have special interest in automobiles, and I know that that's a very tough thing to define. It's to a certain extent, I made a mistake when I put in a letter to the planning board. I used the term light maintenance, and of course, people might think, "Oh my goodness, light maintenance, you're going to be doing oil changes." No. What I meant is someone had a 1957 Ferrari Lusso. They finally, after 14 years, tracked down the mirror clamp for it. And he wanted to put that on his car. Very simply, what we're going to do is we're going to take the light maintenance out of the equation, because that's not our intention to do oil changes or repairs or anything of that nature. That's not what this is about. And we want to be able to present to you what it is about. And what it is a very low intensity use, very few members, and people have a joint interest in special or collector type cars. That's what this is about.
How many members do you think you might have?
It's like anything else. I would tend to think it's always defined by the structure in terms of you might have, back-to-back bays that one person rents. My guess is you would have less than or around 50 members. That's a ballpark. But it's self-limiting, and that's the beauty of it.
Question. How do the cars get in and out? Do they drive them in? Do they get trucked in?
Well, generally, they would hopefully be able to drive them in. Again, these are the cars that are maintained most likely off premises and probably babied, if you catch my drift.
Right, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to drive these cars through the towns.
I joke in many respects when we talk about it, because people who have these cars use them so infrequently, but they don't want to generally keep them at home or can't keep them at home, and they want to have an opportunity to have it in a good facility, and so that on that sunny day, hopefully the battery will be charged and be able to take your car out for a ride. That's what we think it's going to be. The cars that will be here will be fully maintained, just not on this premises.
And you're talking about more of the older cars, like you say, 1957, whatever?
Ferrari Lusso?
Or a 1990, maybe Lamborghini, or...
Certainly, it can be, again, when we use special interest car, we're talking about either a classic or a, exotic. I think you would call it classic or exotic. I saw a letter was delivered to me from the planning board today about lowriders. No, we don't want lowriders. We want classic or exotic automobiles. That's what we want. And they will be, as I said, very well maintained cars.
You also mentioned in that letter something about club functions to the general, it didn't say general public, but public functions.
You know what that was? And again, that's why I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to address it. It was Mr. Errico's thought that there could be occasions where a function could be to benefit, for example, the local schools or something like that. That's the type of function that we were talking about. But you know what? We don't need to have that specifically included in the special permit application. What we can do is, I think you have procedures where...
Charlie, you wouldn't, I think the board should have the understanding and the intent that you might have special events, but that's regulated by a separate chapter. It wouldn't come under the special permit that you issue. If you would have a special event, you follow the procedures in the code table. I did it most recently for restaurant board.
Yes, right.
Right.
I think Adam stated it beautifully. So we're not looking for you to, in your permit, say, oh, this is a blanket authorization. No, we're going to do exactly what Adam said. So, and I'm glad we have a chance to get to clarify that. And they're going to be very, very infrequent, and they'll be, I would tend to think, for a good purpose that might serve the interest of the town.
Okay, but that would be my question. You have a very small area there that you say only holds 10 or 12 people.
Right.
The parking lot doesn't look that big. If you did have an event, where would people park?
Well, that's something we'd have to address when we make our separate application for that, definitely.
What we would look for, and I brought it up, and maybe it was, I don't want to feel like it was a mistake, because it's always, my intentions are always really good. I had brought on an analogy like when Malcolm Prey did a fundraiser at his garage in Banksville. Let's say the PTSA was to come to me and say, V, do you think you could ask the car owners if we could maybe do a fundraiser there? And I would ask them if we could pull the cars out, rope them off, sunny day over the summer, do some kind of a fishing tournament with the little kids on a beautiful fishing lake, and and hot dogs, hamburgers, give away prizes, and all the money that we make, we buy smart boards or something for the kids. I mean, that's what the intention always was. It's not to do. I mean, there's no facility here to do a real event. It's not. It was more for. It's more for an afternoon type of thing. Kids involved, so on and so forth. What's that?
I thought they built parking there with you.
There's 68.
No, but there's flat area
Yes,
on
there's-
the other side where you could park cars
Yeah,
temporarily.
there's plenty of room, like flat acres where.
And it was more of a goodwill thing. It was more of a goodwill thing. The guys might say, you know what, I don't want to expose my cars. And then I'd have to say to PTSA, you know what, we really can't do that. But that was the intention. It wasn't to have functions there. Like, if people asked if they could rent it out. It's not big enough.
Because we see things in
It's not big enough it's not big enough of a indoor space to be able to do that. So it was more of an outdoor thing because the lake is really beautiful, and it's, you think about kids and son, dads, moms, blah, blah, blah. It's something that could really have been something nice on the fundraising side, but, it was just an idea. That's all.
So the short answer is also, there's conditions, I'm sure, for issuance of the special permit for the special event, and I'm sure we'd have to meet those, whether it provide, off-site parking or parking areas. We'd have to demonstrate that to satisfaction. But you're right, again, because something got put into writing, I'm just glad that we have the opportunity to address it with you so you understand where we're really coming from. And we'll address that, and you can address those things also in the conditions of the special permit. So we're happy to do that.
Right, but that special use is not being asked of us right now, so that's something completely separate and aside.
Exactly correct. To clarify, we are going to amend our application, take out the issue of the light maintenance so that no one has the wrong impression about that.
Right.
And we'll remove the reference to special events. If we do that, we'll do it pursuant to the special permit provisions you have separately in the code.
Correct.
That's right. That's basically our presentation. If there's anything else we can answer, we'd be happy to do that.
Else has more questions about it? Adam, do you have any questions that you think we should have missed or haven't thought of?
No, I think the next step, there are certain requirements that the board has to find in order to issue the special use permit, and that's in section 21330, and another section specific to membership clubs.
Right.
So that
Can you actually describe that, because I think that's not clear to most people, that this is, in my understanding, an acceptable use in a residential area.
That's right, yeah. Legislatively, the town board put this as a permitted use in residential districts, as long as they meet the additional criteria that is in the town code. We have several examples of these types of facilities throughout the town. I'm just looking at my notes. Whippoorwill Club, Windmill Club, Brynwood, Daniel Gray Fishing Club, Anita Louise Erman Pool, the Rocky Ledge Swimming Club, the American Legion. All of those are in residential districts and are private membership clubs. Some of the special permit requirements, you want me to go through them?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Actually, so the first thing you'd have to find is that the location and size of the use, the nature and intensity of the operation involved with it or conducted in connection with it, the size of the site in relation to it, and the location of the site with respect to streets getting access to it, are such that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which it is located, and that it complies with all special requirements for such use established in the zoning chapter. Those are the special requirements we were talking about. So you'll have to make that finding and provide the rationale for how it meets.
Now, does planning board make that decision, or we?
No, that's the town board special permit, so the town board is gonna be making that finding when it either issues or denies the special use permit request.
For the planning board to provide input, we'd have to request planning board to review it. In the past, it's happened.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what will happen. The planning board will provide you their thoughts and comments on this, but it will be the town board who makes that ultimate decision.
Planning board is the lead agent.
Planning board is the lead agency for the environmental review of the project. We've circulated a lead agency intent, and they'll conduct the environmental review. And one aspect that we didn't go over today, but as part of the environmental review, you have to take a hard look at all the environmental impacts. So there's actually an exhibit that was submitted to the planning board that shows how the property could be developed residentially. There's a 7-lot proposal and road giving access to it. And that's what the planning board is going to use to take that hard look. The applicant's not proposing that 7-lot subdivision. The planning board's not approving that 7-lot subdivision, but in terms of the environmental review, we want to understand what those impacts potentially could be. Do you want me to go back to the special use permit requirements? There's 5 more.
Sure. Why don't you go through them?
You'll have to determine that the location, nature, and height of buildings, walls, fences, the nature and extent of existing or proposed plantings are such that the use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development of adjacent land and buildings. And that the operations in connection with the special permit will not be more objectionable to nearby properties by reason of noise, fumes, vibration, or other characteristics than would be the operations of any permitted uses not requiring a special permit. Those are the big issues. And of course, as the applicant presents and you get feedback from the public, you can mitigate some of those potential impacts if you feel there are by putting conditions in the special use permit.
Does the conservation board have anything to do with this?
Yes, the conservation board is going to be involved. Some of the proposed development is located in a town-regulated wetland buffer. As was stated previously, there are both town-regulated wetlands and state-regulated wetlands. Under this proposal, the car club facility would be outside of the New York State-regulated wetland and wetland buffer, but portions of it are located within the town-regulated buffer. So they'll need, we'll refer this to the conservation board, they'll provide feedback back to the planning board. The planning board will ultimately issue potentially a wetlands permit along with the site plan.
Who's the closest residence, feet-wise, to this?
There was an aerial view.
Yeah.
That's probably the best plan to look at. It's hundreds of feet, if not more.
Hold on, sorry.
Probably 1,000. Yeah. I guess the closest would be the Leisure Farm houses on top of the ridge. Those would probably be here.
And how tall is that ridge, like visually? I know it's
Oh,
usually quite
it's-
high.
yeah.
So, although the distance, the height is very far
We're
away.
talking about, the closest one seems to be about 550 feet, 600 feet.
And what's the height of the ridge from here?
Oh, goodness, it's more than that.
So it's a whole different dimension.
There's no doubt.
Yes, this is way up.
Right on the side.
Barry?
Yes.
Can you also point out on there where Byram Hill Road is?
Yes, as Byram Lake Road, actually maybe the aerial. This is Byram Lake Road, crosses 684, and then extends up north along 684. And Byram Hills Road is right in here.
Okay, because at that intersection of Byram Lake and Byram Hill is a residence on that corner.
This corner.
Yes,
On the north end of this one.
Former Ujetta property.
Yes.
There's residents there, and that's where the residents on Byram Hill start going up there.
And unfortunately, that one's not the scale, but I could use this one as a reference. That residence is located right in here. So that puts them over 1,000 feet, approximately 1,200 feet away. And one thing that I think was represented on the section is the building itself is sort of notched. It's much lower than the elevation of Byram Lake Road, and it's sort of notched into the hillside. So it was designed that way to, again, try to tuck this thing away a little bit and get it as remote from everything else as possible.
How far off of Byram Lake is the frontage of the building?
Off of Byram Lake Road?
Yeah. No. Byram Lake.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, the building itself. Well, the right of way, of course, we have to meet the setback. This is, I think we have 50 feet. It's a 50-foot front yard setback from the property line itself. From the edge of pavement of Byram Lake Road, we're at about 75 feet.
Or be fully visible from the road, or is it?
No, you could probably, if you look at the elevation, you're looking over the top of the building. And that's the reason why we picked where we put it at the 50 foot is what's required by the code. But by tucking it under there, you get to look over the whole building.
Right, bringing it further back increases its visibility.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
If you pull it further towards, it increases its visibility. Right.
Yeah, this is the elevation of Byram Lake Road, and looking out across the site, try to keep it a very low profile. The single-story buildings are even lower. The only second-story component is that core where the club facility is, and even that has a low profile, flat roof, virtually flat roof, right?
I mean, if we were to do a residential here, we'd be able to put a pitched roof, and now, it could be 15 feet higher than that roof because it's a residential area. And now you'd have this real big roof in your face of what the Architectural Review Board likes to see, those big pitched roofs. And then it would have been a lot worse than what it's looking like today.
And that front could be screened with landscape as well.
Yeah, 25-foot buffer area is
Right.
required,
That's right.
but we have more than that, and we're going to require that the existing vegetation to be maintained there.
There's some big trees that run along that property line.
Right.
I mean, that run, I think it's outside the property line.
Oh, the right of way.
I think you're gonna find
No,
that.
doesn't the state own some of that road?
Yeah.
I mean, some of that
Not the
buffer.
road, the triangle between the road.
Right.
You're talking about here, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's vegetated.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
That's larger
And
than
that's
that.
not even on our property, that's definitely gonna remain vegetated as well as ours.
I mean, I would think that this is something that we work out through the process, as far as screening here goes. Given that this is a one-story garage structure here, I would think that as you're coming along Byram Lake Road, you'd want to leave that open so that you can still see the lake and see the property. Maybe up in this area for the second-story clubhouse facility, you put a little extra screening here. But that's something that we can work out during the process.
One other question, you may have said this, and I apologize for getting here late, but in that center building, it sounds like there'll be no mechanic repairs, anything like that. What would go on? Is it more cosmetic detailing stuff that would be
Right,
vacuuming or?
Yeah, I mean, most of these people they have their own mechanic that they like to touch their car, their own cleaning guy, and they drive their car over there, or the guy will come pick it up, the mechanic will come pick up their car, go do the thing at their shop with their specific stuff. I mean, some of these people, it's like if this was a horse stable. Let's say this was a private horse stable club. It's the same exact thing, but instead of having horses, you have cars. These expensive horses people love, specific trainers, all of the specific people working on them. The only thing about is you don't have all the other stuff to go with the horses that you don't need here. But it's the same
Maintenance
right.
that occurring at a
It's that kind of a thing where it's that personal touch that you have. I mean, there are guys that have personal touches with their cars like people have with their horses. It's the same.
Before you arrived, we mentioned that inadvertently we had put in the letter that there would be light maintenance of the vehicles. What I was referring to, and I gave an example before, is that you have a car from 1957, you finally tracked down that one mirror piece you needed, you want to put that on your car. Specifically, I wanted to address there will be no lube, oil changes. None of that is going to take place here. Okay? So we're going to modify or clarify that in a letter to the planning board and to you as well. And you can put that as a condition. It's very simple.
Will there be any gas pump there?
No.
No. No.
No gas, no oil, no nothing. These people, again, you know, it's got to go to a specific place to be taken out properly, to put in properly. I mean, you know, it's not something, I mean, this is not, you know, you're going to just buy a basic car, go bring it over there and work on it. I mean, these are, you know, it's like, these are expensive, these would be really expensive cars that people, you know, invest in, and they want to, you know, look at them and drive them and so on and so forth. I mean, myself, if I put 300-400 miles a year on a car, one of my collector cars, it's a lot. I mean, I have a 2007 exotic car that has 2,000 miles on it 5 years later. It's a couple hundred miles a year. It's about what you do. So it's not something that, you know, these people collect them. And the way collections work, the cars are always worth more money when they have less miles. So you're not motivated to drive them because they're not worth, as you put miles on them, they go down in value. So you got to keep them, you know, that's why people have a couple of them. So that they can take this one out one day, maybe take that one out another day, take one out just, you know, him and his wife because it's only a 2-seater. We take the 4-seater out maybe because we have the kids or something like that. So it's, you know, it's, I guess the same thing with horses. You have a horse that you ride in the show, and you have a horse that you just ride to ride, you know. That's
Also, unlike a stable barn, there's no wash stalls in this facility.
So they won't be able to wash their cars.
we haven't planned on it, no. So, because again, you're not going to have the machinery to, you know, to do it right. I don't want to take on that responsibility, you know, especially at the facility, you know.
Doesn't sound like these cars ever get dirty.
He wants to take them out for 10 seconds, yeah.
People I know.
Yeah,
We will have an on-site meteorologist to check the weather.
you know, you go to these shows, and they all have those feather, or whatever, the chamois things that they dust the car off with because the motors are so detailed, you can't really get them that wet. Because if you get them wet, it's a really big event to get them all shiny again. You just can't just hose them and then just blow them off.
What we're trying to say is this is a sickness. This is a place for people with real sickness.
You know. And I believe, and I do believe it creates value in our area. There's a lot of guys. You know, there's probably, I must have a list of 20, 30 guys already looking. If the, you know, oh, you know, count me in. I want a spot. I want to be involved in it. I want to be involved in it. I want to get more. I want to get a couple cars. I just have no place to put them. Count me in, so on and so forth. So, you know, you've got people that really are passionate about this, and in these kind of areas, to be able to have this in the community, like a country club, where you don't have to drive 2 towns away, is something interesting for that small group of people that want to be part of the club where they can keep their car. I mean, I think there's a place up in Wilton, Connecticut, right? There's a place in Wilton, Connecticut that does something like this. Who wants to drive to Wilton, Connecticut to go get your car out for the, you know, you have to drive longer to get it than it is to use it. That doesn't make any sense. So, and in these kind of areas, you know, I think it really fits well for creating, you know, value in the kind of people that you have in these communities.
Another question, you mentioned membership club, so is this going to be a not-for-profit
That's
organization?
right. As a matter of fact, it has to be under your code. That was when I stressed before and said to you, this is not a commercial enterprise. It can't be under your code to be a special permit used there. It has to be a membership. I think that the actual language is not primarily operated for gain. And I think that what happens with that is that, like you have with a country club, sometimes you build up a reserve from your membership fees, but that's not really for gain. And I guess the exception is to say not primarily for gain, but it has to be a not-for-profit situation. It's not a commercial
So
enterprise.
it'll be like a 501c6?
You know, I'm not sure, I'm not an accountant, but it probably would have to go under that.
Okay.
And you are entitled to see the membership organizational documents as part of your special permit process to ensure it. That's again why I wanted to stress, this is not a commercial operation.
He is an accountant, and he will be looking at
Thanks a lot. What you said, a 501c6, gotta be right. Absolutely. Gotta be right.
Steve has some free time. Yeah.
The next couple of weeks, I have nothing to do.
So I think the key sentence to take away from this, that a membership club is an allowed use in a residential district. So we're not doing anything out of the
Absolutely.
ordinary, it's just an allowed use.
Absolutely.
And the way I look at the cars, it's a piece of art. Instead of on the walls, it's being parked in the garage, and it's low use, just a lot of beauty. So that's the way I'm absorbing this.
That's the way we wanted to present it, because that's the way it's going to be. We didn't want to have any misimpressions out there. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this session.